Okay, so this is a status update. Just kind of want to talk about all of the stuff that you have to deal with when you support any resolution. So the slum exit stage is interesting for several reasons. So basically, when you just play at a fairly normal aspect ratio, you don't have much of a problem because in the original game, when you get to the end of the stage, Damned comes out and he can call more enemies. And the enemies can come from the building and they can come from the left side of the screen. In the original game, it was easy because the field of view was so narrow that to make enemies come in from the left, all you really had to do was spawn them from off screen left and just let them walk on, and that's fine. But you can see the complicated scenarios that you can have here. So let's put this sucker at 64:9 aspect ratio, 4:16:9 monitors side by side. Now look at this. You can literally see almost the entire stage, and it's a complicated scenario because now you can't just spawn enemies off the screen to the left because you can basically see everything. So basically, there are different ways to attack this. I mean, I could have been lazy and I could have said, all right, let's just always make the width of the stage, the screen width plus the stairs, coming, the stairs on the left side of the screen. And then that way, you could guarantee that the staircase would always be off screen and you could always be lazy and you could always just bring in the enemies from the side of the screen. But I'm not lazy. I'm crazy in the coconut, and you can see what I did here. So all of the characters, like the spawn points, they can it's all actually animated. It actually figures it out. They can walk up the stairs. They can come in that way, and so when Damned calls them in, they can actually walk up the stairs. And so you see how they're just walking up the stairs there. So yeah, so basically I'm having to do this basically for the entire game. Like in any scenario where it would be awkward for them to spawn in just appearing off the left side of the screen, I'm baking that in so that they can actually do that. And so it's a lot of work, adding in all of these extra things, because there's so many additional scenarios, that you have to handle, to make all of that happen. So yeah, so I'm kind of going through the whole game, making sure all this stuff like that is okay, and but yeah, I mean, basically, so even when you play a kind of like a sane aspect ratio, a normal aspect ratio, um, I mean, I'm basically, like the same logic is always applying here, where, you know, uh, they're really always coming in. They're always walking up the stairs, basically, even if you can't see it. And I just wanted to show you like a lot of the nice little polishing. So you'll notice that 2P and Wong Hu and you know Bill Bull have all been added to the player select stage. So the player select stage is finally fucking complete. All 24 characters are hooked up. Jesus Christ, what a fucking mess. And I've also added some really nice things. So you have your cursor to select the characters, and so basically, see how like it's actually not letting the cursor go out of the visible area. So even if you play at some like crazy ass aspect ratio, you still you can't actually get the cursor off the screen. And also like when you push the pickup input, it actually recenters the cursor now. So you can kind of jump around faster if you want to select a different character. Yeah, so that's been kind of polished up there. Um, I wanted to show you too, because I didn't show you the different characters in this endless stage, because all of the Dungeons and Dragons heroes are now uh, shown in this stage, stabbing the dragon. And and you also probably notice, like, if you look at the energy bars, you can see how I've implemented, Xing out the portrait of the characters, when the character dies. So yeah, so most of the UI has been, completed there. Yeah, it's just, it's pretty much getting there. It's getting kind of polished. Um, yeah, you also notice too how, like, there's kind of a variation on the physics for the enemies when you land a killing blow on them. It's kind of like the original game where they go a bit higher, they go a bit farther, they go a bit faster when somebody lands a killing blow on them. Yeah, the flow, like the basic gameplay loop is so fucking solid. It's so fun. Like every time I test it, I just I'm just like trying to test one thing, but then I'll just kind of like start screwing around and then actually playing it. Um, it's too fucking fun, man. Uh, yeah, right now I have the enemy damage pumped up pretty high. They're basically kicking my ass. Um, that's kind of one of the decisions that I have to make. I've been kind of, I've been, kind of just like thinking about, how I'm actually going to tune it and balance it. What's going to feel right. Um, it probably isn't going to have multiple difficulty levels, because, like, personally, I believe that difficulty level. I see how the cleric just jumped down there to stab the dragon. Um, but yeah, basically, like, I feel that multiple difficulty levels are just kind of, like a non-committal pussy's way of designing the game, because you're basically just not taking a stand. You're not saying this is what the game is. This is what I balanced it for. If you don't like it, fuck off. I mean, that's kind of, my philosophy. Um, like, basically, I'm gonna design something that feels fun to play. It feels balanced, and if you don't like it, modify the source and change the hit points yourself. I don't care. But yeah, but it's going to be something that I think is, fair and fun. I mean, because that really is the balance of these games. See, like, I'm not hung up on difficulty for difficulty's sake. Like, it always has to be fun, and that's like a big mistake a lot of games make. Like, you can't make things too smart or too hard, because if you do that, the game isn't fun anymore. Like, the game has to be fun. And essentially in games like this, basically you want to feel like a superhero, just, just annihilating an army of enemies. And you can't really get that if if you make them too smart or too annoying to fight. But yeah, so the other, Dungeons and Dragons heroes, are in there. See if I can, get one more. It's random though, so I don't know. We might get a repeat. I don't know if it's going to be a unique one. Yeah, there's a cleric again. But yeah, but basically, you can get the elf, you can get the cleric, you can get the swordsman. Pretty much all, like, six of them. Oh yeah, the dwarf. Yeah, they're all in there. It really is a joke, like, how much fucking crap went into these levels. Um, but yeah, so basically on the spawning points, another enhancement too that I put in there is that there's basically multiple criteria for spawning in enemies. So there's basically something where it checks, like, what's the camera position? Like, a spawn point will only apply to a camera position. So you could do something like, say, um, we're gonna start spawning enemies, X number of pixels into a map, but There's another criteria though, which is basically like, okay, like we use the camera to decide when to start spawning them in. But then on top of that, there's like where they're actually going to spawn. So I separated the camera position from the position that the enemies will actually spawn in. And you kind of need that for things like, bringing in enemies, like making them, climb up the stairs when they're actually off screen. Because the trigger for the camera position might be like, say, 500 pixels into the stage, but they're actually going to spawn in, like negative 200 pixels, in the stage. So you have to be able to isolate them. You have to be able to separate them, to allow for things like that. Man, these guys really are kicking my ass. Right now, the enemies are basically doing like every hit is doing like 50 damage. It's pretty ridiculous. It's definitely too much. Oh yeah, there's the dwarf. So yeah, so basically, yeah, basically like just a lot of tweaking, just kind of finalizing shit. Um, it is getting there. As you can probably tell, I got sick this week, and so I was working on this like a fucking zombie. But it is. It's just fucking fun to play, man. I mean, it really is. Yeah. So if I would stop adding stuff every like 5 minutes, I could probably get this out. But I there are some more assets I'm going to add though. So even though it's just kind of like a small detail, and it probably doesn't really matter that much. Um, I'm going to like when you on the stage select here, um, I'm going to add like when you have one of the stages selected, I'm actually going to animate it so that for each one of these stages, like there's a little animation so you can kind of like tell that you have the stage selected. Um, that's something else that I want to get in there. And yeah, even though like it's such a tiny thing, it's just it like the little polished things. Like I mean, basically, like I said, I want this to be perfect. I mean, and that's pretty much the criteria. Like I'm gonna put it out. It's gonna be done when I can play it, for more than 5 minutes without thinking, I should probably add that because that's basically how it's how it's been going. Is just kind of like, well, it's like, yeah, it's pretty good, but I kind of want to add that. And so, man, fucking Belger. Oh God. Oh God. Um. Yeah. So the yeah. Damn, these guys are fucking rolling me. Yeah. So as far as the UI goes, like basically, I think like the last kind of like HUD UI thing I have to do is I have to add in the like the player number label for like when an enemy first spawns in the stage, because because you want like a little label that says like, oh, okay, you're player one or player two or whatever. Um, I'm still kind of debating the font on that one, because I don't really see. The problem is like the original Final Fight, because it was only two players. It had a special font, and they actually didn't do the font, like the number on the font. It doesn't go up all the way to 10, and so I'm gonna have to do something with the font, pick a different font, or adjust that somehow. And for the arrow that appears above the player's head, I might actually take the Alien versus Predator graphic, just because I like the way it looks better than the Final Fight one, and it actually fits in pretty well because Similar palette, same resolution. Um, yeah. Yeah, so basically it is coming along here. It's just yeah, and I also recently kind of fixed up Axel, even though you can't tell. Yeah, oh yeah, because see, I have 10 players selected right now, and that's why like the enemies are really only showing in their original color, because because basically there's only because like there's 11 to 12 palettes per character, and because the first 10 right now are reserved for humans, there's only really one left for the CPU, and yeah. All right, gotta stop playing Bob Saget.